Hi, everyone. Welcome to Me, You, and Who. On today's episode, I had the pleasure of speaking with Tot and Gregory, two amazing dads who just finished their surrogacy journey not too long ago. It was a true joy listening to their story as they first started out with egg donation, on to surrogacy, and now they have a precious boy that is very obviously the light of their life. And I am just so excited for you guys to listen to Tot and Gregory. Me, you, and who? Who knew it would take more than two people to have a baby? In a world where infertility is no longer a taboo topic, this podcast will take you through all the different aspects of surrogacy and egg donation through the lens of many who walk this journey in different ways. My name is Whitney Hall, and I am a two-time surrogate, now turned surrogacy coordinator for Egg Donor and Surrogate Solutions, the very agency I used when I chose to carry for two amazing families. With this podcast, it is our goal to help guide and support you as you learn about what it takes to grow a family in an alternative way, as well as hear inspiring and beautiful stories of how this path has changed lives forever. We can't wait for you to hear about just one more way happy families are created every day. I'm so excited to get to talk to you guys about your fantastic journeys since you did both egg donation and surrogacy. But yeah, okay. Now you two fantastic dads with a fabulous little boy. How old is he now?
8 months, almost 9 months.
Yes.
Almost 9 months. Oh my gosh. That's so exciting. I mean, is he like just so cute and round and precious?
Yes, he is.
Yeah,
He is absolutely adorable.
and he's very
Oh
big.
my
So
gosh.
he weighs 30 pounds. So he's in 22 T clothes now. So it's a lot of fun.
Love it. Oh my gosh, so sweet. Just squeezing them is like my favorite part.
Absolutely.
What made you guys decide to go the route of egg donation and surrogacy just as the way that you guys chose to grow your family?
And initially, we set out speaking with a friend that directed us to our attorney, Karen Persis, and we
Mhm.
talked about all the options of adoption and surrogacy, and with Karen, and she gave us, all the legal advice, between options, and that, there's no right or wrong option. And after talking to her and her recommending surrogate solutions, we decided that that was the route that we would prefer to take.
And we interviewed throughout the process. We met with some adoption agencies and adoption consultants. We talked to friends who had done surrogacy as well.
Mhm.
And we talked to friends who adopted, and we heard different sides of the story and pros and
Sure.
cons, and we weighed those out for ourselves. What we thought we would enjoy, the most of the journey would be being part of the surrogacy experience and
Yeah.
getting to be a part of this from really the very beginning all the way through. And more importantly to us, or a big factor to us, was just the ability to go through that process and be,
Yeah.
be there every step of the way. Since obviously we weren't able to carry the child, ourselves and have that personal experience. It was the next best thing for us to get to, have a surrogate, build that relationship, and really follow this process all the way through. And it gave us a much better appreciation as we went through it, even more so than I think either of us expected. To be able to be a part of that process. It helped us bond throughout that process and be
Mhm.
more prepared for the kid. Not to say adoption probably wouldn't give you some similar options, but this is something that we thought it would be a great experience to have, and really glad we went that way.
Yeah.
Yes. And the
Yeah.
more we got into it, the more we learned. I mean, we learned a lot, and we learned a lot very quickly. And we, like, oh, thank God for Angela, our coordinator, and Crystal, our surrogate, who had already done, been a surrogate
Sure.
twice before. Um, and actually, once we had decided to do it, we filled out the information, we sent it in. We were told we were the fastest in responding and getting things back
Way
than
to
they
go. Gold star for you.
yeah, than they had ever experienced, because we were so excited and we didn't want anyone to be waiting on us for anything. And
Mm.
no matter how busy Gregory was as the CFO of a company, he would stop whatever he was doing, get whatever they needed, and get it back. Um, Once we had, the embryos created, we did the genetic testing the first
Yeah.
time. We had three embryos, two viable, but only one that tested
Normal.
normal, that they would transfer.
Sure.
So we let Gail know, and Gail said, she didn't think it would take that long. In the meantime, we spoke amongst ourselves and said, just in case, because there's a high rate this may not work, we probably should go ahead and have more embryos ready.
Sure.
There,
Well, and hold on, let me pause you. So you I'm going to take us back just a little bit. So you found out about the agency through Karen, which we love working with Karen. At any point in time, and you had said that you had talked to friends and things like that. At any point in time, did you ever think you wanted to do an independent journey, or were you just like, no way, Jose?
We had friends who had done independent journey, and they recommended that if we get some help, it would be good. They had gone through it twice, but independently, and for their second time, they knew what they were doing. But
Yeah.
they recommended that if we had someone we trusted as an agency, that it would be very helpful. That they wish they would have used an agency the first time
Uh-huh.
around. So we didn't really, once we got connected with Surrogate Solutions, we felt very comfortable. It was a lot of good information. We talked to several of the team members, and really just immediately felt comfortable and felt supported. And
Yeah.
once we made that connection, it was never a question that we would try to do something different, because we knew that we needed the help. And it was the ability of the team to connect to us and make us feel supported was instant and really helpful. So it was never a question not to do that once we made that connection.
Sure.
the absolute clear guidance uh, and direction that we're given. We were basically given a flow chart, and the initial simple flow chart that we were given looked easy enough. However,
Yeah.
there were about 1,000 other little things in between each bubble, that we were
Mhm.
initially given, which is good. I'm glad, because I would have been super overwhelmed. But without the guidance and the direction of basically, this is what we need to do next, this is what we need to do it by, it would have been a mess.
Yeah, no, I totally hear you. So you started with the egg donation side. And how was that process like for you? What were kind of some of those emotions as you were, beginning that journey?
Yeah, we got really lucky with that process as well. We had a really great donor who was wanted to connect to us, so we got to have a Zoom call. We got several email exchanges, and through our coordinator, we were able to communicate quite a bit. And again, really open dialogue,
Yeah.
which is really nice. And again, we knew very little in terms of all the medical procedures and exactly what would be going on.
Sure,
So
sure.
we got a good appreciation and just learned a ton during that process. But it was really helpful for us to again build the appreciation for everything that the donor was going through, and
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
experience that they have, and all the steps it involved, and just the overall process, right? So we had a great doctor here locally that helped us understand a lot of that, but just being able to connect with the donor, and again, she was super easy to communicate with. She was very
Yeah.
upfront with kind of how she was feeling and things that were going on. And that was really helpful for us, again, to understand kind of that her experience and help us appreciate it. So it was a really great experience, and we were really glad to have that opportunity to go through it. More than else, just again to understand the whole process and what was entailed, and again, from that very start, to be a part of it was really fun.
No, for sure. For sure. So this was a known donor cycle. You had said that you met her over Zoom and things
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Okay. Oh, that's awesome. So that, I mean, and that just adds even more, connection to
Yeah.
growing your family. That's so great. What were some of those emotions that you were feeling? I know you were getting just so much knowledge and you guys were connecting with each other, but what were some of those emotions as you were going through that process?
One of the things that I will admit is when we initially started this process, I did not realize that you could create an embryo from one individual and then transfer that embryo to a different individual who is your gestational carrier.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Yeah.
I honestly didn't. I had
Just
not
did,
wrapped.
yeah.
And once we were talking to Karen, and all this was coming clear about, hey, the person that is carrying the child is not genetically related. That doesn't share any DNA. Uh, I was like, wow, this is makes it a lot easier because it's not a genetically related mother, it's a gestational
Right.
carrier.
It's not the traditional surrogacy. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think in terms of how we felt in terms of going through the donation process, you start to appreciate it a lot more. We learned a ton about what was involved, but
Yeah.
we really started to, I think, appreciate this experience. It was kind of the beginning of, it's complicated. There's a lot of steps. There's the medical part, there's the miracle part, and they all come together. And it was, I think, emotionally interesting to kind of go through that experience because you're excited and you're nervous and you start to understand the like anticipation and the waiting
Sure.
game. So it kind of helped us get ready for that in terms of the full pregnancy. But largely, I think it helped us to just really build that appreciation for what the surrogate and what the surrogate would be going through and what the donor goes through, and just started building that appreciation for the whole process and everyone that's involved. There's a ton of people.
Yeah, that flow chart got a lot more complicated.
Yes. When it gets really difficult to get the appointments, scheduled with your fertility clinic, and getting everybody organized, again, that's where without you guys and the coordinators at Surrogate Solutions and Egg Donor Solutions, we would have been a mess. It was, it was, it was highly stressful and emotional in the sense of, getting the person here to be checked out and then getting the person back, for the procedure, getting the medication to them in their state. All those steps, it seemed like it was going to be forever before we ever actually got to, because in my mind, I'm thinking, Gail, we're never going to have a surrogate. This is like, it's going to take forever. Then it's going to take forever to find the surrogate, which was my fear. And I'm bouncing off the walls thinking it's going to be 2030 before we actually have a child born.
Oh.
And then of course, once we had the embryos, Gail, I sent her an email and I said we had embryos. She said great, and it was, I think, was it like a day, 2 days, like a day or two later, she just said, "Hey guys, just came across my desk. This person's very close to you," which Gregory had just said. Of course, we'd prefer if our surrogate was not in Alaska. And they laughed and said, well, actually, the last that we paired was in Alaska. And we were like, oh. But Gail said, hey, we've got this girl that came across my desk, and she has done this twice before. And she said, but, there was an issue with her last, trial. And it was due to poor embryos.
Okay.
And so, she said, run it by your doctor. We ran it by the doctor. Everything was good. We met with Crystal via Zoom. We all agreed, that she'd been on this journey, that, she had experience. We felt comfortable. We clicked. And from there, it took off.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed in the process and to kind of go down that rabbit hole of, oh gosh, it's going to be 2030 before I have a baby. And then all of a sudden when you click with that person, did that give you any sense of relief, or, what was that like?
Yeah, well, I think just the fact that we were matched so quickly was a big relief. And as soon as we got to meet our surrogate, again, we met over Zoom for the first time. Even though we were local, we just met, through a Zoom call, just to connect for the first time. And I think that we spent probably 30 minutes talking to her. But as we did, it was an instant, like kind of a relief, or okay, this is it's going to be a good match, and we felt pretty
Yeah.
relieved that there was someone that was local for us, which is a big blessing, and that it was a good connection. And I think Tot and Crystal had a pretty instant bond. And it really did feel like, okay, now this is going to move real quickly, or a lot more
Yeah.
quickly. So
Yeah, it was definitely a sigh of relief, meeting her, talking to her. By the end of it, I realized, hey, she's direct, like she knows what she's doing, and we all were aligned in what we wanted, along the way.
Sure. No, and that's huge. That's huge in that connecting process. Yeah.
So that was the exciting part, where, it's like, wow, okay, this part's over, but then, is this gonna work? Is this gonna work? Yeah.
Sure. Sure. So then you had the added, scenario of you had one embryo, but you were thinking about making, or you were wanting to make more while still going through that process. So tell me what that was like.
Well, we had asked, should we or shouldn't we? We got both answers, I think, of yes and no.
Always
Basically,
helpful.
basically the fertility clinic flat out said it's probably a good idea, and so we
Okay.
went ahead and did that.
And you used your same egg donor?
No.
she was already in
Okay.
another cycle by the time we made that decision.
Yes.
And so she wasn't open to, or wasn't able to donate again.
Yeah.
And so we chose to go to a bank, and go the different route, but which worked out well for us.
Yeah.
But it was an easier process to do that way. But so glad that we had gone through the donor cycle first, because again, that whole appreciation, that experience of going through it to understand how the egg that we received from the bank came about, same process and the same generosity of the donor.
Sure.
Having the experience of the fresh donor was really helpful for us. Tough to make that decision to go to a bank because we had such a great experience with the donor.
Yeah.
But knowing that it was going to be a more expedient route for us, and we felt like we had some good options there. So we chose to kind of take that route for the second round.
No, for sure. For sure. Were you able to have a relationship with this donor through the bank?
No, we weren't.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, it's a very different experience. The first experience was, again, personalized a little bit more.
Yeah.
Right? We were able to build relationships, and we knew kind of made that relationship with the donor. The second one was much more transactional, right? It was kind of a bank transaction. We had the information on the donor, but we weren't able to connect with her. So having that first experience, I think, definitely helped us to appreciate what we got from the bank, and experience of the donor process.
Sure.
But a little, much different in the bank transaction.
Yeah, no, for sure. So you were going through that experience while also going through your journey with your surrogate with the embryo, your fresh embryo. So what were those new emotions like? I feel like we have it's a roller coaster, right? You're so excited, and then it's, oh my gosh, here we go. And then we're so excited, and then, all of that. Tell me more.
It was, it was the initial doctor visits, the blood work, the everything they could do to make sure that everything was perfect.
Yeah.
With with Crystal, with the surrogate, and it seemed like it took a long time to get through that process of making certain that everything was good to go. And then I was there for the transfer of the first embryo.
Okay.
It was very exciting. I had Gregory on FaceTime, I believe, because could not be there. Plus we didn't know if we should both be in the room for the transfer, but it was crazy that after the embryo transfer had been completed, that the doctor asked the embryologist to take it back into the lab to check under a microscope to be certain that the embryo was not still in the syringe. I was like, oh my goodness, like wow, this is crazy that it's so small that it needs a microscope.
Sure,
Um,
sure.
yeah, and actually during the initial meeting with Crystal, the surrogate that we were matched with,
Yeah.
she up front told us that she was not married, but she had gotten engaged
Mhm.
just prior and recently. Then throughout the process of getting to know her and through the journey, we were invited to her wedding and attended the wedding, and while she was pregnant. Um, and I'm sorry,
Oh my
I totally skipped
goodness.
ahead. I
No,
just
you're
skipped.
good. You're good. That leads me, you're going through this experience. You guys, kind of have 2 feet in both situations, right? Like you've got a surrogacy journey going. You're also, going through the egg bank, but you have your embryo. It's a whirlwind of emotions. What were you doing during that time, to foster that relationship? Because I know that was so important to you guys to be so a part of what was happening. So what were you guys doing, as you were getting to know Crystal more and starting that journey
Yeah,
to ultimately be led to, hi, come to my wedding?
Yeah. We actually set up a lunch in St. Augustine where we went and met her fiance. And that
Yeah,
was a big sigh and relief because, when you find out and that she's engaged and going to be married, is he okay with this? There was
sure.
there was a little bit of a fear of, is he okay with this? Is he, gonna get in the way, or and he was absolutely wonderful. I mean, couldn't be a
Oh,
nicer guy, more supportive. That was a big relief. I think, once we met him, realized he was so supportive and knows that this is what she'd done and she wanted to
yeah.
do, and he was on board. He had 2 kids already. Crystal had 2 kids of her own. You know, they were done
Hmm.
having kids. That was a sigh of relief for me.
yeah. I think just um, we had a lot of communication, right? Email communication, phone calls, texts. Like it was an open dialogue, and we were at every appointment, whether it was a routine checkup of the pre-transfer, whether it was the transfer, whatever it was, we were
Yeah,
there. Which Crystal is pretty independent. She told us from the very start she can do this on her own. She had done it from up for a remote
sure.
international intended parents before, so she had kind of gone through this by herself.
Yeah,
And she said, I can do it. You don't need to be at anything. They said, we want to be there. So you tell us if you don't want us to be there. Otherwise, we do want to be there.
yeah,
And she respected that. And she did tell us a few times, hey, you don't need to come. This is for me. But for the most part, we were at every appointment. And I think that helped. Crystal probably would have told us, and she did before we started, you don't need to be there. I can do it on my own. But I think as the journey went along and we were there, we were able to build that team a little bit stronger. I think
yeah,
she understood how much it meant to us, and we were supporting her. She was also supporting us throughout the process, and we were able to exchange those concerns we had because she's done this before. So she told us something, here's what you should be worried about or not worried about. All right, we're
sure.
worried about this. You say, oh, don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Or you'll want to focus on this or something like that. And if she had something that she was concerned about, she was free to tell us. So I think being local was really nice because every appointment we were able to get together and communicate and start building that level of dialogue and trust.
Yeah,
And that helped. And then again, meeting in person for, meeting her family and that kind of thing was really, kind of helpful along the way as well. But really, we had daily text messages, emails, and sometimes just, small things. But not necessarily even related to something that was going on, but more happy birthday or some things like that. Kind
yeah,
of as we got to know each other and build that relationship. So that helped us a lot to again ease our anxiety a little bit because she was able to tell us what to focus on, or she knew that what we wanted to know or what we felt
sure.
was important to us. So it was a really good experience.
Yeah. So, I mean, that communication factor is so key. And then, uh, what did support look like for y'all? And then what did support look like for her? How did you support her and how did you feel supported? Obviously, communication was one of the biggest ones.
Yeah. So we clearly know nothing about having a kid or what the whole process would entail. So a lot of it was just, hey, what's coming up next? How, what are you feeling? What is the next process going to be? What should we be thinking about? Right, not just in terms of the journey that we were on together, but from when we're bringing the baby home, what should we be expecting? What from the she would tell us of kind of from the get go. Here's the delivery day.
Yeah.
What to expect and what we will want to be thinking about. So a lot of it was just her insights and kind of helping us think ahead and planning ahead. And again, she would Todd's a pretty more of a worrier or has a little more anxiety around some things, and she again they had a really great relationship, and she would get to calm his fears and help him think through some if he was thinking about something, she's like, Todd, don't worry about that, we've got this covered, I've got you. And she really was just
Sure.
there to she got to hear us and our concerns, and then for us to support her, it was really again, I think whatever she needed, we were there for. Again, we showed up at every appointment. We were, her advocate to the doctor, and we
Mm-hmm.
always said, "It's your, we are here to support you. Obviously, our child is important, but you're just as not more important through this journey. So we want her health and safety to be paramount." And we had that communication with her throughout the whole experience, and really understood what she needed. And if she wasn't going to say it, we would say something to the doctors for
Sure.
her, and make sure we were advocating for each other. And she did the same for us. If she knew that we wanted something, she would tell the doctor, "Hey, here they want this." And so it
Yeah.
was just starting to build that communication was really important. And again, it wasn't just communicating on the journey itself. It was about things that were going on in our lives, and starting to be friends really, and getting to know each other.
And even along the way, we'd say, hey, if there's anything we can do for you, and most of the time, the answer from her is no, I'm good. And
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
but and then there was a moment where she actually got COVID while she was pregnant. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
she needed one of her injection medications from the doctor. They did not have it in stock at the anywhere near her in Palm
Pharmacy.
Coast.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I called the doctor. It was on a weekend, and I finally got the nurse to, I'm like, hey, can I come to the office and get this injection, that she needs? And she finally found it at Publix. I went to that Publix and drove it down to Palm Coast. So, you know, I was
With
at
some
least
soup.
and some soup. Yeah, I was able to at least
And
leave.
some
Yeah, I had
soup.
several. Yeah, I had
Aw.
several soups. Yeah, so I left several soups and the injection medication at her doorstep. And took off because I didn't want to bother her. She was sick. Uh,
Sure. Oh, that's so sweet though.
yeah,
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. So, okay, so going back to your story, because we bounced around a little bit. So I know Tot, you were there at the transfer. Did that first transfer take?
it did not. That
Okay.
one, and we knew right away. It wasn't like there was any doubt.
Okay.
Like it just, the doctor said, within a few days, like they just knew. They're like,
You just knew.
yeah,
Okay. What would
there was never any heartbeat. There was nothing. There was the H, uh,
HCG?
yeah, levels weren't up. Like it was,
Yeah.
so it wasn't. I mean, I guess if it's not going to take, I'd prefer that's like the way it doesn't take. I mean, in other words, it's easier because it's not like, hey, we got excited, something started, it just never took. So,
It just never took. Okay. And
yeah.
what were kind of those emotions like, and how did you, kind of team baby between you, Gregory, Crystal, Todd, how did you guys support each other with kind of, that disappointing news?
I reached out to the fertility clinic, to our coordinator there, and I just told her, hey, I feel like the sail, like the wind has just been knocked out of my sails uh, at this point.
Mm.
And that, it, she assured me that, you know, they would do everything that they could, that sometimes it happens. And we decided, okay, we're going to do this. We've got two more grade A plus plus, whatever,
Yeah.
embryos. There had been some discussion on the genetic testing, and we decided, with our doctor, we're not doing the genetic testing on the embryos the second round. We don't know if it's a boy, we don't know if it's a girl, blah blah blah. So we just went with it. And I had just had back surgery, so Gregory went to the second transfer.
Okay.
I would say from the when the first transfer didn't take, it was, for me, it was a little bit hard because you're excited, right? And we were
Yeah.
hopeful, obviously. So this, the first time to go through it, we knew there was obviously, a strong chance that it wouldn't take, but it's still hard, and particularly because we had, with our donor, we only had the one embryo. And so it was
Right.
our one shot, and we had built that relationship, and we were really excited because we had that experience, and that was something we had looked forward to being able to tell our child that, this is how you came about, and we have this relationship, and we can continue that relationship throughout his or her life. And
Sure.
so that was a big disappointment to me personally, because we had really appreciated that experience, and it meant something to us, right? That was even, that embryo was, every embryo is special, but that embryo was even more special to us because of that experience.
Yeah.
And that was our one shot at it, and it didn't work. And so that was really, to me, disappointing and emotional, because of just that was our one opportunity with that donor. But again, Crystal had gone through this before. She
Yeah.
had transfers that had not worked, and she, reminded us of those experiences, and that she'd had ones that had worked, and she was, very
Sure.
optimistic around, we're getting back in the saddle, we're going again. Right? It wasn't like she needed to think about it or wanted to wait around. Like, she was just like, we're ready to go. Let's do it again. So she was really, supporting us through that experience, to say that she was on board. She was, when we were ready, she was going to be ready, and if we wanted to take a while, she was ready to take a while, but she was ready to go as soon as she could. And so that was also really, I think, helpful for us to know she's done it before, she understands, she's ready to go again, and made us more excited to try again.
Yeah.
And similar, we had friends who had a similar experience of going through a second or third try, they finally were successful. So again, we were prepared that it wouldn't happen, but it's still hard. It's really hard when it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But again, great support from Crystal, from our doctors, from the surrogate solutions and egg donor solutions as well, in terms of helping us understand what the risks were and opportunities were, and to prepare us to move on to the second try.
No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic.
And
So
we actually were in the mountains hiking on the second, when we were creating the second round of embryos, and I had a very small signal. We're hiking in the mountains. I get the phone call. It's the embryologist
uh-huh.
from the fertility clinic, and she's trying to tell me, that, hey, here's how many fertilized, here's how many embryos have, and I'm getting like every other word, and I'm telling Greg, I'm like, it's the fertility clinic. I'm trying to hear. I'm trying to move to a different tree, to a different side of the mountain, and I finally understand that we have so many embryos, but two of them for sure are the best quality, grade A. She's giving me all these terms. I'm like,
Sure.
okay, so we know we have two. We have two more shots at this that are grade A. Perfect quality embryos.
Yeah.
It's just funny that we have to be on the side of a mountain.
You're sitting there, and at the end of it, you're just like, look, just tell me if it's good or not.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you did your second transfer. Gregory's there. What was that? How was that experience different from your first, especially after going through a loss?
So Todd had to go to the first transfer, and so I had heard kind of what it would be like, and then I go to the second one, and so I was a little more prepared, I guess, in terms of what the experience would be.
Sure.
But just for me, it just is exciting because it's my first time to see it and be there. And I think it was right at Christmas, and so the doctor comes in with little antlers on his head. And,
Oh my gosh!
So it's an interesting. What you could see with his little antlers on his head as he's in front of the surrogate was quite entertaining. So everyone had a good sense of humor about it. But it's a medical procedure. But you kind of have to remember there's the medicine, and then there's the medicine piece, and then there's the miracle piece, right? And
yeah,
to see that kind of come together was real special, and something I wasn't quite expecting really. It was
Mm-hmm.
pretty fun.
Oh, I'm so glad. And so then the second one took.
Yeah.
Yes, we were actually, yes,
Yay!
we had gone out to Gregory's parents for Christmas in Texas, um, and it was just before
Right
Christmas,
after
or
Christmas.
it was right after Christmas. Yes, and actually, I had gone to take a shower. The phone rang. It was the fertility clinic. I picked it up, and they said, "Hey, it took." You know, the levels are up from the blood work. Everything looks wonderful. She said it needed to be at a
Whatever
certain
the
level.
numbers were.
It was
Yeah.
like 300 or 3,000 times higher. So she said, I'm about 99% sure you're good. And so of course I raced out to tell Gregory, and so he could hear her telling me this. Um, we were ecstatic. We immediately called and talked to Crystal. Crystal said that she knew, and she wanted to wait until she was wanted to tell us on Christmas, but she wanted to make sure, and yeah.
Oh.
And so that was a moment of, I actually recalled the tears coming down my face, when we got that call, that
Yeah,
it looked like it was a successful transfer. That was an emotional moment.
for
while
sure.
while he was in a towel.
And I yes, and I was literally like, yes, I ran through his parents' living room in a towel from the shower as I took this phone call.
First, we're on a mountain finding out we have embryos. Now we're running around in a towel. I love it. I love it.
Yes. And of course, his parents know what the call is. For me to run through their living room in a towel, grab him, and go into another room, they knew what the call was about.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. That is so sweet. So then we went on to have a fantastic, journey. That relationship grew even more with Crystal. What were kind of some of those most memorable moments that you had throughout the pregnancy?
I think one was when we went with her whole family. In other words, uh, James, her fiance, his two children, and Crystal and her two children, all in the Cheesecake Factory, and
Mm,
we just had
just
like a
meal.
2 or 3 hour meal time,
Family dinner.
family dinner. Was one. The other was their wedding. Um,
Hmm.
and it was funny whenever she said, I'll be carrying your child at our wedding. they had they had moved the date up, and we're like, great. And we went, and there were we didn't know anybody, but it was interesting. People knew us, and they ran right over, and, so we had a really good time throughout that. Uh,
Yeah, I would say too. Just again, we went to every appointment, and
Yeah,
usually Crystal's fiance was there.
yeah,
Our husband subsequently was there with her, and so
it was
whether
a
it was again
party.
an ultrasound
yeah.
or whatever it was, there was a party every time, and usually it was Tot and or I, sometimes both of us, but um, every time we got to go, it was a good way to connect, and it was at some points weekly that we were seeing each other. But for me, I think some of those memorable moments, the first ultrasound, right, the first heartbeat. I don't think
Yeah.
James was there for that one. I think it was just us. But we're in these tiny rooms, and you're in the corner watching this thing on the screen. But that is just crazy. Like, so we're all holding. Crystal's holding one hand of mine, and one hand of Todd's. We're trying to hold each other's hands. Like, it is. It was a really just the overwhelming emotion of been waiting for this to happen, and the ability to make it happen was so
Yeah.
exciting, and get to share that together. And then just throughout the process, every time there was ultrasound or something, we were all there. My mom went to one of them. She was in town, so she got to go to one of them. And Crystal really did welcome everyone to be a part of the experience that we needed, that we wanted to be with us. And we did the 3D ultrasounds, and she said
Sure.
we weren't going to do it, and she said no, you should do, or 4D, whatever it's called. And she said no, you should go do it. So she set it up to go. We actually had to do it twice because the baby wouldn't cooperate the first time.
Yeah, Crystal reminded us that she said, you guys had said you wanted to do this. and this is getting towards the end. And we were like, well,
Yeah.
yeah, but we don't, you've got, so much going on and you're not feeling too well right now. And she's like, no, she's like, you guys want to do it? Let's do it. Set it up. And so, yeah, she set that up. And throughout the ultrasounds, another moment was we had been asked along the process at some point, do you want to know the sex? And we're like, yeah. And she
Yeah.
said, okay, it's a boy. And we are like, oh, yeah, great. It's boy. So we're on the way to the TPC. I told Gregory, I said, you know what? They're backed up with furniture and stuff. And he looked, he's like, oh my God, it says that if I order now this furniture, it won't be here until like literally 2 weeks before, the due date. So he's ordering furniture while I'm waiting to get into the TPC Players Championship golf tournament. We're placing the furniture order. It's all
Boy.
it's boy, you know, uh,
Typical blue, all of the things.
themed,
Yeah.
safari themed, all for
Oh,
boy.
cute, cute,
So
cute,
we
cute.
go to another ultrasound after we've, bought, ordered, like all of the stuff. And the lady says, do you guys want to know the sex? And Crystal's like, we already know it's boy. And we're like, yeah, we already know. And she's like, I don't think so. And
No.
we're up for like a minute. Like, I think our hearts all, like, at least ours skipped a beat or two. And then, you know, by the time that ultrasound was over, she then confirmed though that it actually, you know, was a boy. But
Was a
there,
boy.
yeah.
And she goes, oh, there it is. And we all scream, penis! Including Crystal. It was all of us at the same time, did it?
Yes.
And so we're like, oh, the hospital the clinic got a good wake up right then. But yeah, it was fun.
I love it. I love it. I love it. That's hilarious. Was there, during the pregnancy, obviously you had the struggle of, losing the first embryo and all of that. Did you ever, what kind of struggles or maybe, just insecurities that you maybe perhaps experienced throughout the pregnancy up to delivery day? Daily insecurities.
Yeah. I mean, just in terms of, again, we were really lucky. We got to see Crystal weekly almost. I mean, so we were connected to her. We could see her progress and definitely felt connected to her and the experience. But it's a little bit out of your control, right? So it's not like your traditional pregnancy where you're watching your wife or your partner on a daily basis. So some of it's out of your control, and you're trusting that the person's doing the best. And again, we had full faith in Crystal, but it's sometimes you just got to remind yourself that she knows what she's doing. She's doing a good job. It's going to be okay. And then there's the doubt for ourselves in terms of, are we ready and are we prepared, and what are we getting into here?
Sure.
But again, that's where I think having our consultant with Angela was really helpful, because we could talk to her about what are we expecting, what's coming up next, here's what to expect this week and the next week and the next, or this appointment, the next appointment. So that took away a lot of those concerns or uncertainties, because you kind of at least procedurally knew what was coming up.
Sure.
And some of what to be looking for, what to be expecting. So you knew that what was kind of normal. So I think that helped me a lot, at least to ease a lot of my fears, at least about the process. The fears of parenting aside, which again, that was a daily concern.
I don't think those ever go away.
Yeah. There was always the stress and the fear of, the farther along it got, like I would have just a random moment on a day where I would freak out, where it's like, oh my goodness, what if this fails now?
Sure.
And we would talk each other off of those cliffs, like if we had that, that moment. And it all worked out great in the sense that we were able to comfort each other. Hey, don't think like that. Everything's going fine. There's no reason to think that it's not. But as far as, like you were saying, Angela preparing us procedurally, she also prepared us like for what to take to the hospital, like for delivery. She even like included in her note chapstick, because the air's usually dry and your lips will be chapped. And I was like, I would have never thought of half of the things that she had brought to our attention.
Sure, sure. So, speaking of delivery day, what was delivery day like?
Delivery day
Oh,
was,
a long day.
yeah,
A
I think we got
long
there.
day.
Yes, I think we got there around 9 in the morning,
That's about 8:30.
about 8:30 in the morning,
Sure,
and they had uh, decided to induce because Julian had gotten so big they were getting concerned.
sure.
Um, and uh, we got there, we got settled, we got checked in. They had our own room for us at the hospital, um, which was next to Crystal's room.
Mm,
Um, they started the process finally around maybe 11 or so. The doctor came in and he started, the IV of the medication for inducing, and then,
mhm.
a few minutes later, hour later, so I said something about, where did Dr. Pamet go? And they're like, oh, he went back to the office. And I'm like, he did what? He started the induction and went back to the office. I'm freaking. And they're like, just calm down. And he said that if he, first of all, he's watching her contractions, everything live on a screen in his office. He can be back here. He can be back here. He's assured us with traffic in like so many minutes to the hospital. And and I'm just like, no, no, this is bad. And
Oh,
so
Todd.
so we initially sat there like on pins and needles, would not leave the vicinity for the first 5 hours, maybe, thinking that it
Oh
was
my
about to
gosh.
happen any
Are you
moment.
hanging out with Crystal during this time, or are you guys kind of like in and out?
The first 4 hours, we were right there in the room with her. At about 5, 6 hours, she was starting to not feel well, so we kind of drifted out, and drifted in, but mostly drifted out. Went and got, finally at like 7 o'clock, I think we went down before the cafeteria closed to get something to eat.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. I hope you had
at seven
snacks.
at 7 p.m. I don't think so.
No,
I don't think we did because we thought it was coming any moment. And so I think about 7 p.m. we done with the cafeteria. It actually got the food and took it back up to the room. We were in our room eating, and some nurse came in and said, "You guys can finish your food, but you need to be ready." And like the next, I don't know, she said 15 minutes, 10 minutes, something. So we're like, okay, like it's now almost 8 o'clock, and or it is 8 o'clock, I think. So we walk out the door, and all of a sudden, I'm like, we still have plenty of time. Obviously, it's been almost 12 hours, so hey,
Sure.
there's no rush, no rush. And all of a sudden, I'd gone to the rest. I don't know where I'd gone. I went to fill up my water bottle. I'm coming back, moseying along, and Gregory's like, "Todd, get in here." And I'm like, "What? Like, what's the deal?" And he's like, "It's happening." And I remember thinking, like, what? Oh my God, like, are you serious? Like, 12 hours later, they told us, they brought us in the room. They said, stand over to the side. Dr. Pamet came in. He said, guys, stand over here. And all of a sudden, like, a swarm of 12 people came in that room.
Uh-huh.
Uh, Lights dropped out of the ceiling. The bed, flipped out. Like, this hotel room turned into a hospital room, like
Sure.
immediately. And he had us standing there. People were shouting this, people were shouting that. Gregory uh, and I were squeezing each other's hands so hard. And
Oh.
I apparently was breathing so hard. Later, I was told by a couple of the nurses and Crystal's husband that they thought I was going to hyperventilate or pass out
Oh
because
my gosh, you poor
at
thing.
this time we were all still wearing masks. Apparently, my mask was being sucked into my face, and you know it happened. I was expecting we'll be in there for another 2 hours. That baby came out in, I think,
He
two
was ready to
minutes.
go.
Yeah.
Like in 2 minutes from the beginning, he was out in like 2 minutes, and we heard him cry. And as soon as I heard his cry,
Mm.
I was completely relieved. His cry
Mm.
was so loud. And then, as planned, before he came, they had asked, are you comfortable just going next door with the baby? Let us, let Crystal have some privacy. We said, yeah. So they wheeled us and Julian next door, and he just he turned his head and he spit the fluid out. I mean, just very strongly. I mean, he was so strong, and he just wailed. And I just hugged Gregory because at that point I knew this boy is strong. I mean, the
Mm.
cry, the just expelling the fluid from his lungs and screaming, and he was so strong. And that was the moment where I'll never forget. Now tell your
Oh.
now tell how you experienced it.
No, it was Tot gave you that recap of the day. It was it was a long day waiting for that moment, right? And we kind of
Yeah.
again we were waiting, and we were in with Crystal most of the day, and again just chit chatting for the day, kind of talking. There was supposed to be a space shuttle launch that day, so we're kind of talking about various things, and just chit chatting for most of the day. And then as it got closer, you could she wasn't as engaged. She wasn't feeling as well, so we did try to give her space, but
Sure.
we had planned kind of how this was going to go. We talked to the nurses, talked to the doctor, with Crystal. We had all kind of agreed on when the time comes. Here's where you're going to stand. Here's what you're going to do. So we were all ready. You think you're ready,
Yeah.
and then again, it happened. Once it happened, it went so quickly, and it was like you're just over there watching, and you've seen it on TV. You've think what it's going to be like. It's nothing like that. It's completely different, and
Yeah.
it is truly one of the most amazing experiences. Just to again see what Crystal was going through, what she was doing. I mean, complete champion of the process there. It was amazing to watch, and the doctors and the nurses that supported her. But just to get to be in the room and part of that experience again was just amazing. And yeah, I think my hand was probably broken from squeezing Todd squeezing it so hard. But yeah, as soon as he came out and was crying and being able to know that everything at least was safe from that standpoint at the time was unlike anything that we've ever experienced before. It was truly an
Yeah.
amazing experience to get to be there and be a part of that. And again, then we got to go in our room, and then your dad's, and then it starts setting in of, oh boy, here we go.
Yeah.
Got a lot to learn here.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And backing up just a moment, as he was giving his recap, it reminded me when they brought us in, and I heard a nurse screaming about getting Dr. Pammett. I heard somebody say he just went into a C-section, and then I heard Crystal say, "Oh hell no," because she had been seeing Dr. Pammett. Dr. Pammett had said he was going to bring this baby, but they had paged another doctor to come. And then we're thinking, kind of still figuring out what's going on. All of a sudden, Dr. Pammett flies through the door.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he's like, I put the C-section on hold. I told you guys and you, Crystal, that I'm delivering this baby. I am delivering this baby. And so
Oh.
that was a moment of of relief. Everybody was, very relieved. And the other was as soon as Julian came out and started screaming, and I had that sigh of relief,
Sure.
Dr. Pammett, in his beautiful suit and his white coat, said, "He got me." And we're like, "What?" And he had just came out and peed all over Dr. Pammett. Just as soon as he came
Julian
out.
Fritz.
So that was another moment that was entertaining because the whole room was laughing at that moment, I think.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. What an amazing, amazing day. And now Julian is 8 months old, sweet, big, beautiful boy. How has y'all's relationship with Crystal evolved since then?
Well, obviously we've been really busy. She was
Yes. And she's
she,
busy. Yeah.
and she's really busy, and they actually went through a move and moved here closer to Jacksonville, into Jacksonville from Palm Coast. So she's been painting, and her kids moved schools when they moved up here. So she's been busy. We've been busy, but we've kept up. We tried, both of us, really hard to get together on Christmas. It didn't happen, but we've stayed in contact. We are all over liking and commenting on each other's Facebook posts,
Sure.
and we still are getting together. Obviously, we just we haven't had a chance. It's just been
No,
hectic
life
on both
happens for
sides.
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the
But it's not strange or weird.
yeah,
It's
it is kind of one of those things where you think like we were seeing each other weekly, and you go through this experience, and then it kind of stops. And that's one thing we were concerned about is we wanted to have that. Not necessarily we didn't want to force a relationship, but we
Sure.
hoped that we would be able to have a relationship with our surrogate, throughout the process and after the process. And it was a great experience with Crystal throughout the process and the relationships that we built. And since then, yeah, I mean, Crystal's still been supportive of us. She will text and check in, and again, we keep up with each other through social media as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a different relationship because we're not seeing each other weekly. But I still feel like if we need anything, she would be there to do it in a heartbeat. And likewise, I think if she needed us, we'd be there for her in a heartbeat. And it's good to know that that relationship didn't just stop. And I think that's important for us. Right? We want to be able to support her because she was did such an amazing thing for us and gave us such an amazing gift. So continuing that relationship is really important, and we've been able to do so and look to do so more as maybe life settles down a little bit more here.
Absolutely.
And after everything was over and done, like Angela had sent a message to both Crystal and I, and I responded, to Crystal, and I said, Crystal, you know what? We are forever grateful for you. You will for always be a part of our lives. I can't, tell you enough how much we appreciate you and how much you helped me along the process. And I hope you know that you cannot get rid of me, because I will show up at your house. And she responded, she said, Tot, please shut up. I'm still very hormonal and I can't stop the tears.
Oh, sweet love.
So it was
Oh
really
my
sweet.
gosh. Oh, you guys, that sounds so dreamy. And I'm so happy you guys had such an amazing experience. Is there any advice or, just any words of wisdom that maybe you would say to, potential intended parents, whether it be intended parents of, through egg donation or, maybe words of wisdom for a gestational carrier, anything that you would say?
Stay calm and stay occupied with something to keep your mind off of it. Because there's just a lot you cannot control.
Yeah.
And you just have to accept that you cannot control it and just find something to occupy your time. That's all I've got.
Yeah, I would say feel free to speak up, ask questions. Whether it's through your counselor or whatever you have, whatever support system you have, whether it's your surrogate or your advisor or throughout the donation process and surrogacy process, there's someone out there who has been through it and knows about it and can answer the question, or at least tell you something. And if they can't, they're going to help you find someone who can. So I think for us, at least for me, having that support system, and again, our families were great through this process, our friends were great through this process in terms of that emotional support, but there's only so much they can do, right? Having someone inside your immediate circle that's going through this process that can, answer your questions and tell you what's going on. Your doctors will do all the stuff they need to do as well, but there's just something about that relationship with the surrogate or the relationship with your
coordinator,
surrogacy solution team, the coordinator, that is unique. Like it's just a unique perspective they can give you, and it's a really valuable gift that they each can give in terms of the calming you down or answering your questions. So lean into that and don't be afraid to lean into that, because I think that helped us to enjoy this experience a lot more, and just be a part of that experience with them. They can be annoying, right? The coordinator can ask you things or want you to do certain things, like, oh, I don't want to do it right now. But the more you lean into it and the more you go along with it, the more enjoyable the experience is. And I think to me that was the most important thing, was just having the ability to have that additional support. I didn't know we needed it as much as we did, but so grateful that we did have it.
And yeah, like just to piggyback on what Gregory said, as far as the support, like just asking questions, like if you're feeling anxious or you're feeling doubtful, speak up and
Yeah.
I let the fertility clinic know. I felt like the wind had been blown out of my sails, at that
Right.
one point.
Right.
And they said, "Look, this happens, blah blah blah." And they talked me off the cliff. But unless you speak up, you're just gonna carry that burden or that feeling or that fear by
Yeah.
yourself. And it really helps to, like you said, speak up and occupy your time, but speak up when something's bothering you, or you'll just go bonkers.
For sure. No, absolutely. Oh, that's excellent, excellent advice. 100%. Okay, well, I have one final question for you. As anybody who knows me, I am a coffee addict. Love it. Can't go a day without it. So, what filled your cup this morning? Whether it be literally like coffee or figuratively, what filled your cup this morning?
So I'm the morning dad, and
The morning dad. Oh, I like that.
yeah. So I'm the get up early and get ready for the day. That's my responsibilities. So it is the highlight of my morning every day. This morning was a little rough because we had a late night with the baby, but the every morning it is so fun and rewarding for me to get to go in. I get the baby up. And he's sitting up on his own now. So I go into the room this morning, and he's sound asleep, just dead sleep. And go and tell him good morning, turn the lights on. And he wakes up with his sleepy head and little sleepy eyes, and he looks at me, smiles, and sits up and just starts grinning and ready for the day. And that's usually the experience every morning I have. And it's a great way to start the day. So that's my figurative cup being filled, is to get that experience to start his day. We go to the window, we look out the window and see what's outside, and we say good morning to whatever we see. And it's a fun way to start the day. Hopefully it sets his day off on a good path. It sets my day off on a good path. And it's a really fun way that I feel like I get to connect, and it's a great way to start the day.
Beautiful. What about you?
And I don't
Not
get
morning
coffee,
dad.
so that gets me going.
And coffee, absolutely.
Mine first thing in the morning is I have coffee while he's getting Julian up, because
There you go.
I'm the night person, not the morning person. But mine is throughout the day and the afternoon, the same as Gregory. When he goes down for a nap, when he wakes up and he's giggling and he's laughing, when he's reaching for you, he's just started to reach. And then, coming down the stairs, he sees the dog wagging his tail and he just laughs and giggles.
Oh.
I mean, it's just the most amazing feeling. And when I open the door, he loves the outdoors. So when I go to open the door and he realizes we're going outside, he'll just jump up and down and laugh and giggle. And then again, at night, I am the one who, gives him, we do bath time together, which is always entertaining and bonding for both of us.
Yeah.
When we do bath time and play in the water. But then I rock him to sleep and give him his bottle. And it is just the most wonderful feeling to have this little child fall asleep in my arms and, ease him into bed. Last night, he woke up and he didn't want to be eased into bed 2 or 3 times. But that rarely happens. He has been sleeping through the night since he was about 2 months, maybe less than 2 months old.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I think maybe a month and a half. He's been sleeping at least 6 hours, and now he sleeps 10 hours. He's been sleeping 10 hours for at least 6 months.
Oh my goodness. Parents all over the world will be jealous of this. You guys, again, thank you so much for sharing your story, your journey, all of the ups and downs. I know we're so grateful for you to just, share all of that. And I know, from Angela, she just loved working with you guys so much, just as a colleague. So yeah, be well. Thank you. Give squeezes to Julian for all of us. And thanks again, you guys.
Thank you.
You have just finished listening to an episode of Me, You, and Who. To find out more about egg donor and surrogate solutions, go to www.createahappyfamily.com.